No, go ahead. It won't bite you. How's everything going?
Good, great.
Yeah.
I was just on the Eisen show where I challenged Jerry Rice in the 40 at the NFL Combine for charity. So
You guys did?
yeah,
Okay.
I got a bet with Michael Rubin.
Can you run fast? So you're pretty fast.
Hopefully by March.
All right, guys, welcome back to the next episode of Wide Open. This is Tony Gonzalez, and I am having the privilege today to be joined by a badass. I mean, somebody who has done stuff that we all dream about, building companies, selling companies, and doing it at the highest level. I'm talking about Marc Lore, and he has been very graceful, to join us. You've started companies. You started one of your companies. You sold it to Amazon.
That's
and we
right.
were just talking about this before the show, so I don't want to screw it up. I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just talk about it with you right now? You sold one of your companies to Amazon.
Yep, diapers.com.
Diapers.com. And then after that, you started another company and then sold that one to Walmart.
Yep.
And now you head up all of e-commerce for Walmart.
That's it.
Perfect. Oh, it's great. I was reading the bio and I was like, oh my God, this guy is major. So anybody out there, especially you young business people out there looking to start your companies, you're going to love this episode because he's about to drop some knowledge. It's going to be great. All right, Marc. Let's start out as a child for you. I had read that you wanted to be a farmer.
That's right.
When I was younger, I wanted to be a race car driver because I grew up here in Long Beach. We shoot the show in LA. And I used to go to Long Beach Grand Prix every year, and so I wanted to be a race car driver. But for you, wanting to be a farmer, you said you grew up in New York, right?
I grew up in New York. Yeah.
So why a farmer?
Yeah, for the longest time, as this is a little kid, this is like 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, but it was just something that was so interesting to me. You grew stuff from nothing, basically a seed, and then there you had it, and that's really now looking back exactly what an entrepreneur is. You have a clean sheet of paper and you build something from nothing. So it's kind of interesting just to think back to that.
So as you got older, though, I imagine obviously you grew out of that, and you said, okay, I went through high school. I want to be an entrepreneur. When is the first time you said?
Yeah, I didn't. There wasn't such thing as there is today, where it likes the startup scene and you can get a job working for a tech company. I was the first person in my family ever to go to college and stuff. So there wasn't this preparation period. So when I was in grammar school, high school, I did every startup business you can think of that a kid would do, whether it be washing cars, mowing lawns, selling newspapers, recycling, started a baseball card business, lemonade stand, you name it. And I was there. And then when I went to college and realized I had to get a real job, it didn't occur to me that you can start a company. I don't know, where do you get the money? I knew nothing about how to do that. And I had really got into stocks and the stock market and used to read books in like 7th and 8th grade. I started reading books on stock options. I started tracking stocks when I was 10 years old. And it was something that I just knew and loved. And there was a profession that you can, go work for a bank. So when I graduated college, I went to work for a bank, Bankers Trust, and worked in banking for about 6.5 years. Moved into financial risk management. I was the head of risk management. Career was going great. I had, started an association, created a certification exam. I wrote a book on risk management. This was like a serious profession, making good money. And one day I just woke up and thought, is this what I was meant to do? Be a banker? Am I going to just be a banker the rest of my life? And when I answered the question to myself and said no, and this is like late 90s when tech started to really kick into gear, and you had all these startups and tech companies, the internet and everything. And I thought, no, I don't want to do banking. I want to do that. I want to be an entrepreneur, a tech entrepreneur. And so I went into my boss's office one day and I just said, hey, I'm just going to resign. I'm going to become an entrepreneur. And he basically laughed at me and said, wait, do you know, you just had a baby and you're making a lot of money. You must have a great idea and you must have investors. I said, I had no idea, no investors, but I know I want to be an entrepreneur. And he said, well, you're crazy. And I said, maybe, but I need to do this. And he said, well, if you're going to do it, consider me in for your first 50 grand. And that's how I got started.
So he believed in you right away. He was like saying, okay.
If I was that crazy, I was going to give
crazy.
up the kind of money I was making to do it. It's like, yeah, I'll give you 50. So that's how I sort of started. And it's a long road. I've done 4 startups now, and each one I learned something new.
Yeah.
And the one thing that's consistent across all 4 is that in every case, I was on the verge of the whole thing blowing up on multiple occasions. So
I want to go back though. You said you had this nice cushy job. You're making good money.
Really good
You can
money.
really write your ticket for the rest of your life. But what is it that was inside you that said, I'm not happy with this? And where do you get the guts to be able to say, you know what, I'm gonna quit, like and go start something. I'm gonna chase my dream. Where does that come from?
Well, I grew up, my dad was a risk taker, and he wasn't afraid of failure. I've seen him, he failed a lot. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So I grew up in this environment where if I failed, nothing bad happened. Parents didn't care about grades. They didn't care about failing. It was encouraged. My dad failed all the time. I watched him fail, but he would try again. And it was just this culture of just risk taking and not worrying about failure that I think really made it easy. It was sort of like, okay, well, I could fail, but it's okay. Fell forward and keep getting better. Go back to the bank, if this thing doesn't work. But I do think to be an entrepreneur, one thing I've learned is you need to be all in. If you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to kind of do it on the side and think it's cool and you can start a business, that doesn't work.
What do you mean by all in though? So if you're a young business person out there and you're starting your
all
company.
in, meaning you have to put yourself in a situation where if it doesn't work, there's serious consequences. So for me, for example, on my second business, I invested $390,000 of my own money that I'd made in banking, and I went to pitch investors, and they said, "Hey, just have a question. Why did you invest $390,000 and not $400? It seems like an odd number." And I said, "Well, because all I have is $390,000. I basically took my entire bank balance and invested in the business." Once you make a move like that, you can argue that was stupid, but once you make a move like that, you're able to focus in a way that is impossible without that sort of like pressure.
Okay.
Like putting yourself in a situation where if I failed, I would have lost everything I'd earned in banking up until that point. And so I think people have like extra gears that they can call on when they're in a situation like that. And I think you need those extra gears.
So, I mean, that kind of goes against the wisdom of thought. Like you have your plan A and you got to have your plan B just in case so you have something to fall back on. But you're kind of going against that. You're saying, no I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go all the way through this. You got to cut the rope and just go. And yeah, it might not work out, but I'll tell you, that's the only way you can ensure that you're going to do whatever it takes to make it happen. And by the way, the investors know this. So businesses don't fail when they have access to capital. Businesses fail when they don't have access to capital. As long as you're on the line and your life's on the line and investors know it, they feel a lot more comfortable investing. I know me as an investor on the other side, that's one of the first things I ask people. It's like, tell me, what do you have to lose here? Like how do I know you're going to give it your absolute all and everything you've got? And if it's somebody who's smart and they've got a big idea and they're really willing to give it every single thing they've got, that's a good bet. Because people like that just don't fail. If you can't afford to fail and you're smart, you're going to find a way. And it might not be the way that you start out with. It might be a different way. Oftentimes it is, but you'll find a way. And so that's... At the beginning though, did you love what you were doing? Was it something like I'm passionate about this?
Yeah, passionate. And it didn't even matter. It wasn't that I was passionate about the idea. I was passionate about building something from the ground up, from nothing, and hiring great, smart people that were passionate, building a culture and having a set of values to live by, and watching the company make customers happy and really have an impact on the world, a positive impact. When diapers.com, just our motto, our mission was to make life easier for moms and dads. And every time we shipped, a box of diapers and all these other consumables, and it got there overnight, and people sent us email back and said, "You're a lifesaver," you felt like you were really making a contribution. And so you have that side on the customer, making the customers happy, and then on the employee side, just building a culture where in a company where people love to work and they feel inspired and they feel like it's the best job they've ever had. And then years later when they tell you that job made their career and things like that. That's super fulfilling.
That's got to be great, though.
Yeah,
that's got to be great.
It's amazing.
I always, obviously I played football for a long time. One of my favorite coaches was a guy named Dick Vermeil, and he used to invite us to his house to have lunch, to have dinner, and him and his wife would host us. And it was so much more. He could have been the best guy on the team or the practice squad guy on our team. And it sounds like when and we had successful teams because of that. My most successful teams were when we had that coaching style. And you see this. People will bend over and break their backs for you if you show that type of compassion for them, right?
That's the key. It's the key word I always say, if I had to boil it down to one word, it's empathy. So, really caring about people and being able to, just show compassion and empathy. And the values that we had at Jet, and we had 3 of them, and it was really around trust, transparency, and fairness, with the idea being that if you're super trusting of your employees, you're transparent with information, you give them access because you trust them, and you create a really fair, safe, inclusive work environment, you rep those 3 values together, people are going to feel empowered. And if you get really smart people that are self-motivated, together, working together with a common mission and a vision, and they feel empowered, you're going to get the very best they've got. And that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
Hire great people and get the very best out of them. Most of the time, great people, if you ask them, over your career, were you always operating at, this is the very best I've got? Most of them will tell you no. It goes in waves. Sometimes they feel inspired to give the best they've got, and other times they kind of coast. So, my thing has always been create an environment where people want to give you the very best they've got.
How do you deal with just with the guy? Because I've been around some of these guys, teammates of mine they're not really cutting it. How did you handle it as a coach, as a boss?
I've learned over the company. So early on in the initial companies, I waited. First of all, I didn't have a good process for vetting people that I brought in up front. Now I have a process of it's all about values. All I care about when I interview people is the value system and do they fit into the offensive system, and occasionally I make a mistake now, and then you have to cut the cord really fast, move those people out, they become a cancer. Early on in my career, I didn't do it as fast. That would be my advice. It's value-based hiring up front, and if it's not a good fit, move fast.
That makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. I like that a lot because
no, you have to move
you can
fast.
hang on to some people, and you're you want to be nice, and I get where it comes from, but it's
you
not
know
going to help.
You know what I've learned also over time, because I've had to unfortunately lay off some people, is that if you're laying off people for the right reasons, it's better for them. They're going to wind up finding a situation that's better suited to their skill set.
I like that.
You could have somebody that is, just not a good fit in your offense, your system.
So it's kind of like you said, you're doing them a favor. It's like, hey, I'm being honest with you.
Yes, you have to be
transparent,
honest.
and you just can't cut it.
This is why you're not a good fit for what we're trying to do here. However, I see a lot of positive attributes, a lot of positive skills. I think this type of industry or this type of company is better suited. And at first, they're defensive, but multiple people have come back to me after the fact and said, hey, I'm in a really great place now. Thank you for that advice. Thank you for letting me go.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that often, but it's happened enough times to know that it's legit. People, there's a right place and company for everyone. Some people are much more type A and they're much more detail oriented. There's certain jobs that are great for that.
Yeah.
Not all jobs. Right?
Not all jobs.
So
have you ever been fired?
Never been fired.
Never been fired. You ever had a good talking to? Has somebody ever?
Definitely. Yeah.
And
I've definitely had talks before about. Every year of. Although one of the benefits of being an entrepreneur is you don't have to go through the appraisal process every year. And being at Walmart, it's like one of these things where now it's like, suddenly you have annual reviews again. It's a little bit disorienting, but I've definitely had.
That's got to be somewhat of a position though. Like, where do you go for? Okay, how about this? When you were a child or growing up, when you were just getting started, did you have any mentors, people that were there to help you out, guide you a little bit, or was it books? Where did you get your advice?
It definitely wasn't books. I never read anything. I didn't exactly have. I really learned by trial and error. So I was kind of left to my own devices a bit as a kid. Probably a little bit too much rope. You know, I grew up in kind of a tough, you know, kind of childhood. And I tried a lot of things, failed at a lot of things, and learned through trial and error, basically. So I did have the fortune of, like, once I hit the workplace, I was very fortunate to have some amazing leaders as bosses, just coincidentally, which I always tell people now, kids that are graduating college, I say, don't worry about the job. Like, don't worry about the company. It's all about who are you working for. That is by far the most important element in choosing a job. Find a great person to work for, because you're going to learn so much from that person. That's what it's all about early in your career. It's learning, experience, not learning how to do a job or a trade or a skill, but learning how to be a leader, learning how to treat people. Because at the end of the day, if you want to go far in business, you're going to be managing, leading people. You're going to be hiring, selling them to come into your company, and you're going to need to keep them motivated, engaged, right? And so, so that you realize that's the most important thing. And most people don't learn that skill, and they don't learn that skill because in order to learn it, you need to have somebody teaching it to you. So that's why I'm always saying, find a great leader and work with them. I'd work for free. If I could go back in time, find an amazing leader and just work for free right out of college and just.
Yeah. Makes sense. So talk to me about taking risks, because obviously in the business world, and we touched on it briefly when you were saying, okay, I had $390,000. I put $390,000 into the business,
which is,
So you were an incredible risk taker, obviously. Do you have to have that to be an upper echelon CEO?
To be a CEO, I don't think so. To be an entrepreneur,
that's what I mean. Like start your own company, like to be in your position, risk tolerance has to be pretty high because the stakes are high. Like talk to me about like risk. To the young guy out there, how do you take risk? How do you decide? Okay, I'm gonna go for it. This is worth it. How do you weigh the pros and cons of whatever's coming up?
Yeah, I look for opportunities where their risk means a low probability of success. Basically, that's what I would kind of bucket. If you said, well, it's risky, it's a low probability of success, but you need to make sure that it's a low probability of success. But if it is successful, it's orders of magnitude bigger returns. So for example, you have a 10% shot, you invest $100 and you have a 10% shot, the 100 becomes $1 million. That's a bet you want to take, right? Because 1 in 10, 100 becomes $1 million. Do that over and over again. Look for opportunities like that. It doesn't make sense to take a risk. You have a 10% shot of success and $100 becomes $1,000. You're not going to, that's not going to work out in the long term. So find bets that have a high expected value where the outcomes are outsized relative to the risk. Find those opportunities and then be prepared to take them over and over again. Because if you take those shots 10 times, 10%, there's a good chance one of those will work out and then you hit the $1 million outcome. You have to be prepared to go in, give it everything you've got. If it fails, get back up, find another opportunity. And for me, fortunately, within each one of my companies, if I continued to go down the path I was going, it would have been a failure. But I saw an opportunity to take yet another 10% shot in the existing company. And I did it a few times, failed, took the shot, failed, took the shot, failed, and then it worked. So all 4 companies, fortunately for me, worked out, but there were failures inside of each one of them that could have blown up if I wasn't prepared to like get back up and go at it again.
So tell me about that. You said failures, and that's a big part of what my story has been about, where I feel like I've learned the most through my failures. During my second year in the league, I led the NFL in drop passes. I had a bully when I was a kid. But really those situations have taught me the most because I feel like that's when I was most cracked open. I was feeling depressed and all that stuff. Tell me about, you've had the success and everybody knows that. What about some of the failures, or what was your biggest failure that you learned the most from?
I mean, just starting in childhood and stuff, even in school and things, I never didn't do well, like academically. I was focused on other things and would quite often fail when it came to academics, when it came to applying to universities and things. I often tell this story, which is just kind of indicative, but I applied to a bunch of colleges and 2 months after the deadline, past when you can apply to college, My dad said, "Hey, Mark, aren't you going to be applying to college soon? Like, what are you thinking?" I said, "Oh, Dad, I already applied, months ago." And he said, "Do you ever wind up applying to that Wharton Business School?" Because he knew that was a good business school. I said, "No, I didn't have the grades. There's no way I would get in. I would get into Wharton." And he said, "Wait, so what's the downside?" I said, "Well, I'd have to do the application and the essays." And he's like, "Really? So you didn't apply? Isn't that your dream school?" I said, "Yeah, it's my dream school, but there's no way I would ever get in." "Really? Okay." So then it hit me. I'm like, "Oh wow, wait, there's not the only downside is just to fail and get rejected."
Yeah.
So I spun up. I did wrote 5 essays. I went to my guidance counselor, went to my teachers, asked for recommendations, and they said, "Mark, you do know the deadline was 2 months ago. And you also know there's no way you would have got in even if you," I said, I know. But the probability is not 0. It's 0 if I don't apply. So I'm going to apply. And I went through this whole process. I applied 2 months after the deadline. And I can remember in May, when the results came out, and I ran to the mailbox and I got the letter and I opened it up. Of course I was rejected. But I remember there was a split second when I was opening that envelope where the probability felt non-zero. You know what I mean? I was actually had a shot. It might have been as close to 0 as theoretically possible, but it was non-zero. And that was such an amazing lesson for me because I took that, into everything I've ever done. I always look at no, it doesn't, you take off and out anything about what it looks like to fail, what it means to fail, just non-zero probability, big upside. So obviously big upside, that was my dream school. Downside was you get rejected. It's an easy trade. It's an easy decision, but yet so many people don't think like that.
Yeah.
That changed in one split second. That changed how I thought about risk taking.
Yeah. What a great lesson.
Yeah.
I mean, I have 4 kids. And a lot of times they don't even want to try because they're like, "Well, I'm just not going to make it. It's just not even going to make it." And you'll never hit the ball if you don't swing. You'll never make the jump shot.
You know how many times people tell me they don't want to do something because they presuppose failure? I don't think that'll work. I said, yeah, but there's a probability it'll work, right? Yes, but what? So you're going to fail most likely? Sure. I think a lot of the people, people go to Ivy Leagues and things like that. They're so used to getting A's in everything that the thought of possibly getting a C, or an F or something is too, it's the risk of that and that mark is too great to take the shots. That's why, you do see a lot of entrepreneurs come from all walks of life and all levels of education and things and stuff. There's a certain, you need to be willing to take that swing. So actually one of the things I did at one of my previous companies is actually I was so tired of people not taking risk that we actually enforced you had to fail at something. And
okay, I got to hear this.
You had to write a 1-page paper on what you were going to fail at. And people first thought I was kidding. They're like, "Well, you don't really want us to fail." I said, "No, I want you to take a shot that's going to fail. It better be a 95% chance of failure." And then when they first started doing it, they're like, "Okay, fine. You want me to do it?" And they put some stupid thing "Oh, of course that's going to fail." I'm like, "You're also going to get judged on what you decide to fail at." That changed it. Then they were like, "Huh? What did?" Yeah. If you're going to fail at something, it better be a big swing.
Yeah.
And then you started seeing things that people were going to fail at. Then they sort of opened their mind and they were like, "Okay, this has a really low probability and it's going to fail, really, really low." Kind of like the applying a Wharton thing. It's got a really low probability, but look, if this works, it's huge. And I said, yes.
Yeah.
Now that's how I want you to fail at that. And you have a whole company full of people taking those shots, 95% fail. A few of them miraculously work against all odds, but they're enough to cover all the investments, right? And I think that's one of the problems with corporations too, and why corporations are in the best place to have a portfolio like that of people taking risks throughout the company. But because any one individual in the company is looking at getting promoted and having a career and things, they can't afford to have a 95% chance of failure, no matter how big the outcome is. You just can't take that shot because your boss is going to say, "Hey, you failed at this." They're not going to know and research, "Oh, but if it would have worked, it had a small probability, but it was a home run." So companies aren't set up and the incentives aren't set up for people to take those big swings. But that's really what you want. That's why startups, in aggregate, why there's so many breakouts.
Yeah.
Because you have thousands of people starting companies with low probability of success with huge outcomes.
Yeah.
Every so often, some of them hit. And that's why venture capital firms make money.
Yeah.
One hit could cover all the losses.
Oh, I love that. That's like empowering too to the employee to have a boss that would say, I want you to. I'm encouraging you to go out there.
Please fail.
When I got done playing football, as I was transitioning to the next chapter in my life, obviously television came up, and I remember while I was playing, I had dabbled a little bit in television, doing stuff locally and all that. And I would do guest appearances on stuff, but I never really wanted to commit to it because I was afraid I was going to fail. I was afraid that it's not worth it anyway. There's no way that they're ever going to hire me. But I mean, look at me now.
Yeah.
Because I somehow got to a point where I could feel good about it and just said, well, screw it. I think that's the best attitude to say. It's just like, screw it and take the shot. You never know.
You never know.
I love that. So you started having all this success. You sold your companies. After you came into that serious sale, you made some good money. How did that feel after you reached the mountaintop? Something you've been dreaming about ever since you started out in business and you were there. Was it smooth?
So diapers.com was that thing. So we sold it for, $550 million. I had a big percentage ownership. It was a big win. And I remember being pretty depressed the next day. And the way the whole sale happened, it's a long story, but I felt like we had sold out, meaning we had a vision for what we wanted to accomplish. And we had built an incredible company and had amazing people working there. And I felt like we sold out because the vision we had set out to achieve was no longer possible because Amazon was just going to consume it, push it on the side. And, it just wasn't, we weren't able to do what we wanted to do. And it was depressing. So I had all this money, more money, for generations, and depression, complete depression. I was really, and my partner was as well.
What was that like though, when you're going through that depression? If
you don't mind, it was just weird. It was, it really occurred to me at that point how much more important the mission was. How important, like I didn't fully appreciate it until we had the money and didn't have the mission and realized how valuable it was. And not only the mission for the company and for the customers, but for the employees as well. And I realized at that point, I started out in banking, so it was all about the money when you were in banking. Yeah. That's just the culture. It's like, pay me. That's the slogan, right? And then as I started doing startups, I started appreciating the mission more, but it was at diapers.com that I really flipped a switch. And when I started Jet, it was very different.
Now.
And when it was only a couple of years after leaving Amazon that started and sold Jet to Walmart, and it was a very different situation. We weren't selling out, even though we sold the company. So there's a difference between selling the company and selling out. If you're able to see your mission through and achieve your vision that you had set out for and get there with a higher probability of success in shorter time, then you're not selling out. You're actually just accelerating what you had set out to do. And I think in the case of selling Jet to Walmart, that's what happened. It was actually an acceleration. We wanted to go up against Amazon and prove we can be a formidable competitor. With Walmart combined with Jet, we felt like that would be a higher probability of success. We can get there faster. And it was super motivating. And also Doug McMillan, the CEO of Walmart, and the board of directors really was empowering and said, here are the keys, Marc. Like, we want you and your team to help Walmart go up and compete against Amazon and create a formidable competitor. So that was really exciting. And so after selling Walmart, it felt completely differently. I was on cloud nine, and it all comes back because the money happened to be more at Walmart, but it really wasn't. That wasn't the differentiator. It really was selling out versus.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm trying to put myself in that position. I'm sure a lot of people out there are saying the same thing. Like, how hard it is to turn something like that down, something that can be life-changing, knowing that, okay, once I do that though, I kind of know where that story is going to end.
Yeah, I didn't really know. I think it was the former, like what you said was like, it was like, wow, you can't turn down this money. It's life-changing. And and didn't realize the impact it had until after the sale was done.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and the money was sort of in the bank, and it was just, me and my co-founder, Vinny Borar, who's a childhood friend since we were 10 years old, we had started it together. And I remember we're like, do you feel like going out and celebrating now that we have the money in the bank? And he's like, no. And I'm like, me either. And we were just like sat and we're just like, yeah, I feel terrible. You? Yeah, you feel, we felt terrible. Felt really bad after it. So it's a great lesson, by the way, just to anyone thinking about selling a company. You have to do both. If you're going to sell the company, you can't sell out. You have to make sure that the mission you had set out to achieve, that's still intact, And if you can see a way to keep that intact, then it's great. Then it's amazing. Because the Walmart experience has been amazing. You get the money, and you get to see the mission through with a higher probability.
You get that fulfillment.
Yeah,
I talk about that a lot. Like that fulfillment, because life isn't just about making the money or being recognized for what you do. Yeah.
And then you realize it's not once you have it.
It's so hard to tell people that, though. I tell people that all the time. It's not about just, the accolades and the money. Don't get me wrong, it's great. But it's not going to give you joy. It's not going to give you fulfillment. And that's what you're after if you're living that full life. And sometimes you got to learn it the hard way.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to go through life and just say, okay, this is where my hand has been dealt, and I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to get better. I'm not going to let it lock me down. Because I guess you could have just took the money and ran too. You could have been like, okay, well, I'm just going to go and live on it. Could you ever do that? You think you could ever just go and shut it all down and be on a beach somewhere for the rest of your life?
Can't shut it down because what happens is, as you start to realize how fulfilling it could be around things like mission and core values and empowering people and like all this, and then doing good for the country and for the world, and you start to see, and as you get into this more, and you have access to more capital, because I've had successes, I have access to capital, access to great people and talent. It's hard to imagine not to take that opportunity to do good in the world, right? And I think each time, it's more of a focus. I think next time I start a company, it will definitely be more geared to how to give back to the employees and to the country. And so it's hard to just imagine going and retiring and you know what I mean. It just doesn't seem.
Yeah, I get that way. It's like, well, what am I going to do? People ask me that when I get done playing football. I'm like, first of all, I'm only 37. And second of all, what am I going to do? Play golf and travel around, which is good, every once in a while. But no, I need something to get me going.
Yeah,
some juice.
I get it.
So you mentioned a little bit a while ago in the conversation, you talked about empathy, and I thought this was really interesting. Read up that every year you pick a word, right, and you focus on it. And this year it's been empathy. What have been some of the previous words, and where did this all start from? Because I love the idea.
Yeah. Actually, this is Melinda Gates. Actually, this is her thing, and she basically put it out there and asked, people like what's their word they're going to focus on this year. And so this is actually the first year that I picked a word specifically, and empathy was the first one that came to mind because I think it's undervalued in corporations and in business in general. I think most people think in order to be a successful leader, you need to be hard charging, you need to be tough. You need to tell people straight what it's like. You know what I mean? It's just and that there's no place for empathy. The empathy is for weak people sort of thing. Yeah. And I think just the opposite. I think when people know you're an empathetic leader and they know that they can come to you with issues and be open and transparent, it builds a lot of trust. It builds loyalty. People want to give their best, like we talked about before, when they feel safe and they feel trusted and valued as a person.
Hitting on the term empathy, it just reminded, sitting here, I just read this article a couple days ago, and this lady, maybe you know her name, I forgot her name, but she has raised these 3 incredible children that are all CEOs of companies. I'm talking, they built major companies, but they do world positive business. And so they're helping give back through their companies. And she was interviewed, the mother was interviewed, and they're like, how did you raise such great children? And she says, because I always showed them empathy. When they were younger, we would go to neighborhoods less fortunate and we would help out. We would give back at soup kitchens. We would help feed the homeless. We'd take. And
I love hearing that.
And you show a child empathy at a young age and then give them that hard work value core system, loving what you do. they're going to be unstoppable by the time they get older. And you have 2 daughters. And I saw how one of them had started the 19-year-old, right?
She's 19-year-old, yeah.
And she started a foundation basically to help your youngest daughter.
Celiac disease.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm telling your story.
Yeah, you got it.
But it's funny how you're talking about empathy, and that's a perfect example right there, raising kids to do that. Can you tell us what's going on there? How did that happen?
Yeah, no. So I have 2 daughters. They're 16 and 19. Mm-hmm. And the 19-year-old, I guess this was back when she was maybe 13 years old, and my other daughter, Sophia, was 10, so 13 and 10. And the 10-year-old was just diagnosed with celiac disease, and she had been very thin and unhealthy and wasn't doing well in school, and then we kind of caught it late. And the 13-year-old was so upset because the younger one had to stop eating the foods that she loved, and the older one decided that she was going to learn how to make her favorite foods gluten-free. And she went out and bought like dozens of different flours and things, and she was just in the kitchen all the time baking. Sophia, how's this one? It almost makes me, Sophia, how's this one? And she would just try all these things, and eventually she had all these like desserts, cookies, cakes, everything that were amazing and that Sophia loved. Mm-hmm. And she would make them for her. And then she decided like other people were trying and like them, and so she started selling them online and created a business out of it. And then she quickly realized the idea of coming home from school, cooking stuff and shipping it out to people was like crazy. So she stopped doing that. And she told me, I said, what do you learn? She says, well, I want something where the inventory is simple to deal with. It's easy to ship, and I can do it any time of the day I want. And she came up with this idea of laptop stickers. And so she started a laptop sticker business, which became very successful, and when she was in high school, and she was making $1,000 a month or something, doing this and having a lot of fun, learning a ton about business. But it all started because, like you said, she was, trying to just do something good for her sister.
God, I have 4 kids. That got me right there. That is really cool. I mean, you're doing something right, Mark. I mean, that's got to be proud for you.
No, I was really
proud. Proud father right there.
To see when you see your daughter taking care of the older one, taking care of the young one, there's nothing. More. Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about being a parent?
Favorite thing about being a parent? I think things like that is the soft skills. Like you said, is like, I think thing that gets me the most is when I see my daughters being good to other people, like being empathetic, being respectful, and just treating other people well. That gets me. Like that is so important to me. And that's when I'm most proud is when they're being really good people. And I think they've, all things considered, I think given, the wealth and stuff they grow up with, I think I'm proud of that they're definitely people first, thinking about people. And my daughter's always the one to go up to the kid that's sitting alone crying, and we'll go up to them in school and talk to them, or, you know what I mean? That kind of thing, that gets me. That's like, that makes me proud.
Empathetic children.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. What's you're doing all this stuff. What's next for you?
I still have inside of me, the like I said, the drive. I'm 48 now, but I still feel young and have the motivation to want to do something again one day. And like I said, do it on a scale that could really make an impact, a positive impact on the world and the employees and stuff. But I don't know what's going to happen. I'm still having fun at Walmart. 3 years in, we're having an impact on the world at Walmart. So that feels good. And we'll see what happens.
Nice. All right, we'll switch it up a little bit now. We're gonna go over routines.
Okay.
We talk about Wide Open. I would love to hear like how many hours a night do you sleep? And so, are you into sleep?
I love sleep. I love sleep, and I much rather kill myself for 16 hours and sleep for 8 than dilly dally for hours and only sleep for 5. Like I'm not that guy. I will get
pretty consistent
8 hours sleep.
8 hours sleep.
I think it's really important because you get to then you're fully energized, and you get to operate at 100% peak performance all day. So there's still 16 hours that you're not sleeping. You can get a lot done in 16 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you eat healthy? Are you Atkins? Not Atkins. That's old.
Keto.
That's 10 years ago. Keto. Yeah, that's the latest thing.
I've definitely tried keto. It's sort of, I try and live with I eat gluten-free because my daughter has celiac, so I don't eat gluten. I don't eat dairy. So I generally eat kind of keto-ish. My big problem is just quantity. I eat healthy food. I just love food too
much.
Have
you tried fasting? Have you tried like intermittent fasting?
I've tried fasting right now. I've tried fasting. Fasting works really well. I did 18 days of just fruit juice.
Really?
And that was pretty amazing. Like,
felt good?
I felt amazing. On the 18th day, I remember going to the movies, and it was a late movie. It was like maybe like came out after midnight. I was busting at the seams with energy. I actually ran home.
Really?
It was like, I'll never forget that. It was just, I felt like a little kid. I felt like a little kid.
It was like, Gump, I felt like running. No, it's good.
But the funny thing about the fasting is, anyone who's ever done it, you get destroyed between days like 2 to 5 or 2 to 7. And most people, they're like, oh, this is messing my body up. Well, your body's just going through a cleanse, right? And then when you come out of it after like 7 days, depending on, and then day 10, I just felt like I just kept getting more and more energy. Yeah. I don't even remember why. I think I stopped because it was Thanksgiving and I had to have turkey. Yeah. But otherwise I would have kept going.
Really? Yeah. I've been getting into it. I've been intermittent fasting for a long time now.
How do you feel with the fasting?
I think it's great. It helps cognitively, energy.
Brain fog's gone.
Yeah, brain fog's gone.
How long do you do it when you fast? Like, is it no food?
No food from, I eat in that. It's really called time restricted feeding or whatever it is. There's a great doctor named Peter Attia. He was over here a couple nights ago. He's like one of the experts.
Okay.
And he was telling me that's time restricted feeding. That's not fasting. Fasting is like what you did. Go 18 days or go 3 to 5 days. That's where your body starts to heal itself too and starts to eat the fat cells. So it's great for dieting and it fights off cancer. There's so many benefits out there. That's why I'm always interested.
But you're doing what? You don't eat for a certain period during the day?
Yeah, I eat. I don't eat breakfast, and so I'll have like a morning coffee or whatever, and then I'll eat around 12:30, 1 o'clock, and then I'll eat around 6:30. And then that's it.
Okay, I think eating late at night's the worst.
That's the worst.
That's the worst, right?
Yeah.
So that's really good.
I just started doing that because I started noticing it, and it's hard when you travel or whatever. But yeah, you eat. If I get done eating around 9:30 or something, and I go to bed at 10:30, I'm crushed. Sleep is horrible after that.
No, that's really smart. I think that's the one thing I've learned. My mom was a bodybuilder growing up, so learned a lot about nutrition when I was younger and stuff. I was like reading a lot of books as a kid, and I've tried every diet, every fast, everything you could possibly imagine. And the takeaway always comes back to the same place. It's like, don't eat late, and it's this, the diet always converges to the same thing. It's like, the good fats, fish, chicken, vegetables, fruit, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just I've tried everything, but it always comes back to the same
crazy.
stuff.
Your mother was a bodybuilder, huh? Yeah. Wow. Okay. But you out there, hey, time to do some squats. Let's go.
My mom used to train Bruce Springsteen's wife back in the day. So
really?
It was pretty funny. Yeah. She used to.
Was she like gunned up? Did she have like
she wasn't no steroids, but she was ripped. I mean, ripped. Yeah. I mean,
okay. No
steroids. She could squat. She was squatting 3 times her body weight. I mean, it was insane.
Really?
Yeah.
Your mom is a stud. It sounds like a stud. Okay. Keeping to that, what would be your last meal? So you sound like you're a foodie. We talked like you're a Napa Valley guy.
No, I love Japanese food.
That would be your last
Japanese. Last meal?
Anything you want, like unhealthy. I don't want to make it. Like, this is the last meal you're ever gonna eat.
I'll go unhealthy. Go unhealthy.
Hamburgers, French fries. Like you can even go the full course. Some people will be on here and be like, okay, I'd have this from McDonald's, and I do like they're going fast food. I was like, I would never pick fast food.
No, I think calamari fra diavolo. The spicy sauce with some really good, well cooked
with
calamari.
A little pasta.
Yeah, a little pasta on the side. Yeah, I wouldn't. If it's the last meal, I wouldn't care about the gluten. Yeah, I'd definitely go pasta.
Would you with dessert though? Would you do like
dessert? I would go. I absolutely love rice pudding. But
rice pudding.
Yeah,
my wife loves rice pudding.
Rice pudding.
It's her favorite thing.
Yeah, rice pudding.
I thought she was the only one. I always thought that was a little weird. No offense. Like rice pudding. That's good. What person in history would you want to sit down with and talk to?
Benjamin Franklin.
Mm.
I mean, that's I'm really inspired. Yeah. I mean, just entrepreneur, but also did so much for America and was just invented stuff. I mean, just so multifaceted, Yeah. That would be the one.
And what's your favorite movie of all time and why?
Oh, favorite movie? Okay, easy. The Natural. And Robert Redford. It's about a baseball player. You ever see the movie?
Yeah, everybody.
The
Robert
Natural?
Redford. If you haven't seen that movie, first of all, I don't know where you've been. It's one of the best movies of all time.
Yeah.
But
I loved it because it was sort of a little entrepreneurial and sort of the like low probability of success, right? He sort of was like the underdog, came up. He was this middle-aged rookie. Nobody thought he could do anything, right?
Yeah.
And then huge upside, and he just shocked the world, sort of thing. I love that story on the one side, and then the romantic side on the other. So there's two stories that just came together in that movie that it just made me fall in love with.
Look at you. You like a little romance,
I
huh?
do,
A little love story every once in a while. That was the last time you cried.
Oh. Cried in public or
at a movie? At a movie you cried?
I cry in the movies all the time.
All the time?
All the time.
So
if it's even remotely a tearjerker, it would have to be one of those things like, I didn't know that was a tearjerker, but I could see why you're crying. It's like sort of thing. I'm definitely I'm sensitive when it comes to movies and crying.
That's good. That's good. You're wide open.
Yeah.
You're perfect for the
Wide
show.
open.
That's good. And speaking of that, last question. What's one area of your life that you'd like to improve in that you're wide open to learning more about?
To improve one thing in my life, I think it's just being a better person. You know, I think there's always room to be better, to be more empathetic, to be more humble. I think those are the things that I would say. Treat people like you'd want to be treated, and do it day in and day out with everyone that you come across. Doesn't always happen that way. So yeah, I think that's an area that I'm focused on, and I can do better. Yeah. So.
Thank you so much, Marc.
I really
appreciate it. I really enjoyed this, man.
Me
Thank
too.
you for coming
Me
on
too.
the show.
Thank you.
All right.